Hello, my dear students. Welcome you all to Sri Jayendra Rank Zone classes. I am your mentor and your friend for the subject biology, and I will be taking the zoology section, that is animal science. My dear students, as you all know that we have completed the digestive system in the anatomical or anatomy of cockroach. We have completed the morphology in the previous lectures. We have started the anatomy part. Means anatomy means the internal structure. So in internal structure, today we are going to start with respiratory system. Okay, we are going to start with respiratory system. So the respiratory organ in case of cockroach, it is known as the respiratory tubules. Okay, there are network of respiratory tubules in body. This network open outside the body by the help of spiracles. Cockroach, it is a terrestrial organism, so it utilizes atmospheric oxygen for respiration. The respiratory system of cockroach is more efficient than earthworm. The atmospheric air, it comes in contact with different organs of the body, and there is no use of blood to carry the oxygen to different parts. So in case of cockroach, blood doesn't act as a respiratory pigment, okay, or respiratory substance. The network, they open outside the body by spiracles. There are 10 pair of spiracles. Two pairs, they are present on thorax, one on the prothorax and mesothorax, one pair between mesothorax and metathorax. So there are total 10 pair of spiracles, out of which two pair of spiracles are on the thorax, one present on the prothorax and metathorax, and the other pair present in between the mesothorax and metathorax. Then other 8 pair, they are present on the first abdominal segment. Okay. So out of 10 pairs, 2 pairs on the thorax, one between pro and meso, the other one between meso and meta. Then the 8 pair of spiracles present on the first abdominal segment. Okay. And one more thing, blood is not a respiratory pigment in cockroach. Okay. Anatomy of respiratory system. So the anatomy of respiratory system says that internally it mainly consists of spiracles, trachea and tracheoles. Okay. So there are three main parts: trachea, which is the first part, A, then spiracles, and then the tracheoles. Okay, now all spiracles, they are present on the pleuron, means the lateral plate. So all spiracles, they are present on the lateral side of the lateral plate, pleuron. The first pair of spiracle of abdomen situated on the lateral side of tergum. The first pair of spiracles is present or situated on the lateral side of tergum. Generally, all the spiracles, they are present on the pleuron, which is the lateral plate. Okay. First pair of spiracles of abdomen, it is present on the lateral side of tergum. Each spiracle is surrounded by a ring-shaped sclerite, very important, known as peritreme. So this point is very important. Each spiracle, it is surrounded by a ring-shaped sclerite, which is known as what? Peritreme. peritreme. Okay, so peritreme, it is a ring-shaped sclerite which basically covers all the spiracles. Okay, peritreme. Each spiracle is guarded by a wall. Each spiracle is guarded by a wall. It is guarded by a wall and bears cilia-like bristles for filtering the incoming air. So each spiracle is having a ring-shaped sclerite which is surrounding the spiracle, peritreme, and each spiracle is guarded by a wall and bears cilia-like bristles for filtering the incoming air. Understood? Valves, they are absent in the first pair of spiracles of thorax, means between pro and mesothorax, and the first abdominal segment as well. So valves, they are absent in the first thoracic spiracle and the first abdominal spiracle as well. Each spiral, each spiracle open into a chamber which is known as what? Atrium. Each spiracle opens into a chamber which is known as what? Atrium or tracheal chamber. So each spiracle is having an opening that is known as what? Atrium or tracheal chamber. The tracheal chamber, they are connected with several main tracheal trunks. Okay, there are so many tracheal chambers which further or which finally merge into several main tracheal trunks which repeatedly branch into a diffuse network of small trachea. Okay, so it is like that each tracheal chamber, it is connected with the main tracheal trunk, and this tracheal trunk and several tracheal trunks, okay, they give off different branches, okay, for the diffusion of gases, okay, of small trachea. Last branch of trachea is called tracheal capillary or tracheole. So the last branch of trachea is called tracheal capillary or tracheole. Tracheal capillaries, they are intracellular. Tracheal capillaries, they are intracellular. Tracheoles, they are intracellular. So whether you call tracheal capillaries or whether you call tracheoles, they are intracellular. So all spiracles are on the pleurite, which is the lateral plate. Then first pair of spiracle of abdomen is situated on the lateral side of the tergum. Each spiracle is surrounded by a ring-shaped sclerite known as peritreme. Each spiracle is guarded by a wall and bears cilia-like bristles for filtering the incoming air. Walls are absent in the first pair of thoracic spiracle and first abdominal spiracle as well. Each spiracle opens into a chamber known as what? Atrium or tracheal chamber. Tracheal chamber further opens into main or several tracheal trunks, and these several tracheal trunks, they give off different branches to into a diffuse network of small trachea. Last branch of trachea is the tracheal capillary or tracheole, which is intracellular. Understood? The tracheal capillary is closed in a cell. The tracheal capillaries, they are closed in a cell called tracheal end cell. So all the tracheal capillaries, they are basically enclosed in a cell which is called tracheal end cell. Understood? The long processes found in tracheal end cell, these tracheal end cells or tracheoles, they have long end processes. I'll show you how they make these long end processes. So this is basically the extension of these tracheoles. It is like this. Okay. This is trachea. Okay. Nucleus. This is the cytoplasm. And this is trachea. This tracheal supply to a particular muscle. Okay, it's supplied to a particular muscle. Right? Like this. So it makes for the branches to supply. Okay, finger-like projections. Okay, so these are the tracheoles. These all are tracheoles. These tracheoles are filled with air. Understood? That is why the long process is found in tracheal end cell. Okay, the tracheal capillary is closed in a cell called tracheal end cell and having a long processes. Okay. Now, these processes deeply merge in the tissue of the body as you have seen in the diagram. Each cell of body is directly in contact with process. Okay. Blood does not related with respiration. So that is why I told you in the very first slide that in case of cockroach, blood is not a respiratory pigment. Okay, blood is not a respiratory pigment. Understood? During daytime, cockroach is less active, so osmotic pressure of tissue fluid is low. During daytime, it's an important point. During daytime, cockroach is less active, and that is why the osmotic pressure of the tissue fluid is low. This tissue fluid rises in the tracheoles, means where it is having fluid. So tracheoles during expiration or exhalation, they are filled with tissue fluid. Okay. Exchange of gases during daytime by the tissue fluid. So this tissue fluid, it helps to dissolve the gases and helps in the exchange of gases. Cockroach is more active in night, and you know it is nocturnal. The osmotic pressure of tissue fluid is high, so tissue fluid do not enter into tracheoles. So during night, air is present in tracheoles. That is like in daytime, the tissue fluid it displaces the air, and during night time the air displaces the tissue fluid. Okay. During daytime the osmotic pressure is low. During night time the osmotic pressure is high. Understood? Direct exchange of gases takes place. Direct exchange of gases takes place. Okay. So when cockroach is at rest, the oxygen requirement is less. When it is at rest, then less O2 is required. Less O2 is okay. When it is at rest, the less oxygen is required. This oxygen gets dissolved in the tissue fluid. Okay, low osmotic pressure during daytime, and when it is more active, the osmotic pressure increases, and that is why the air comes and displaces the tissue fluid. Understood? Now coming to next, these are the respiratory spiracles. Okay, you can see the dorsal cephalic trunk, ventral cephalic trunk. Okay, these are the dorsal, commissures which join the different parts. Thoracic spiracles, thoracic spiracle. Then at the dorsal commissure which joins on the dorsal side, ventral commissure which joins on the ventral side. Okay. Then these are the dorsal trachea, atria, okay, ventral trachea, abdominal spiracles, everything is mentioned. Dorsal longitudinal tracheal trunk, okay, ventral longitudinal tracheal trunk, dorsal longitudinal tracheal trunk, lateral longitudinal tracheal trunk, okay. So all the three sides trunk are there, dorsal side, lateral side, ventral side, okay. Understood? So this is the picture of the respiratory system. There are some important points as well, okay, which we will study in the histology. So now we will study the histology part. The respiratory tubules, they are covered by ectodermal cuticle on the inner side, and the endodermal epithelium lies the outside of the wall. So the respiratory tubules, in case of cockroach, they are covered on inner side by ectodermal cuticle and ectodermal epithelium on the outside. Okay, the cuticle is present in the inside layer and the epithelium layer is present on the outside. Spiral rings of chitin occur in the wall of respiratory tubules. They prevent collapsing, as in we are having the C-shaped rings, cartilaginous rings. In case of cockroach, the chitinous rings are present, made up of chitin. Spiral rings are called ctenidia. These spiral rings are known as what? Ctenidia. Okay. So these spiral rings, they prevent the collapsing of the trachea. Okay, or the airway passage. Spiral rings, they are absent in tracheal capillaries. So tracheal capillaries mean tracheoles, they don't have spiral rings. Don't have spiral rings. Breathing. Several turgosterna muscles, several turgosterna muscles extend between the tergites and sternites of all abdominal segments. So all abdominal segments, they have the opening of spiracles. So all abdominal, the respiratory tubules and their segments, they have extension of muscles of turgo and sterna, then in between tergite and sternite. So turgosterna muscles extend between the tergite and sternite of all abdominal segments. When the abdomen expands, when it expands, inhalation, atmospheric air gets filled in the tracheal system through spiracles. This is inspiration or inhalation. Okay. When the abdomen contracts, the air is forced out. This is exhalation or expiration. Expiration takes place through the first pair of spiracles of thorax and first pair of spiracles of abdomen. So the air comes in through all the spiracles, but air goes out through two spiracles only. The one is the first pair spiracle of thorax and the first pair spiracle of abdomen. That is why they don't have wall. That is why they don't have wall. Understood? The spiracular valve controls and regulate in and out passage of air and abdomen, which are present on all the spiracles except the first pair of thoracic and first pair of abdominal. The cuticle of cockroach is highly permeable to CO2 but not to O2. So the cuticle of cockroach is highly permeable to CO2 but it is not permeable, so much permeable to O2. Most of the CO2 diffuse out from the body wall. Some of the CO2 go out through spiracles. So most of the CO2 diffuse out from body wall, and some of the CO2 go out through spiracles. Okay, so this is very important that maximum amount of CO2 goes out through body wall and some amount goes out through spiracles. The cuticle of cockroach is more permeable to CO2 but not to. The spiracular valves control and regulate the in and out passage of air and abdomen. Understood? The tracheal wall consists of an outer delicate single layered syncytial epithelium. So you write down the ectodermal epithelium is syncytial. When it is multinucleated. Right? Okay. And the inner layer is made up of cuticle. Understood? Tenidia. This is Tenidia, also known as intima. Okay. So the ectodermal cuticle is on the inner side, and the outer side is the syncytial ectodermal epithelium. Spiral rings of chitin, they are known as tenidia, okay, or intima. Understood? So stergosternal muscles, they extend vertically between terga and sternite of the abdomen. They help in the process of inspiration and expiration, okay, rhythmic contraction and expansion of the abdominal cavity. So my dear students, this is all about the respiratory system. In the next video lecture, I will be starting the blood vascular system. Okay. All the previous year questions of this chapter we will be doing at a stretch. Okay. Then you will have a glimpse of all the systems of body, right? So, okay then. Take care. Bye bye. Everyone stay safe.